Hey guys, this girl got game, and we're back to C14 dating. I have turned the mini games off due to most of you being like, sorry if you want to keep it on, but I mean, we read most of them, and we want to get to all the story bits and the chasing people around stuff. Get that romance going. So, those have been turned off. I have skipped the introductions. And as you can see, I've got a busy week ahead of me of socializing and interneting. Socializing raises our culture and empathy, and that's where I often would see Chibi Joan. So I figured that'd be a good thing to do. And on the internet, on the weekend, you can't socialize. So I thought I would do town, which increases culture, email, which increases empathy, which is the two things that socialize does, and then we'll dance to lower our stress. So, let's start. Our first week. Like Sherry said, there was another lecture in the morning, complete with a whiteboard and Augustin demonstrating how to use a trowel. It was all in French, and Sherry was kind enough to translate some key phrases, or remind me that I covered this with her before the trip. The students were divided, with one half, me included, to head for the cave, while the other group would stay behind for lab work. The walk to the cave was roughly 10 minutes, passing through a narrow path in the sloped woods. The trickier sections had cement stairs installed, along with handles to prevent slipping. When we reached an ordinary-looking shed, Augustin pulled out his keys. I realized this was the cave entrance, or at least the artificial part of it.
Once you're inside, please spread out so I can explain how to wet screen.
He repeated the instructions in French as we filed through one by one. There was a raised counter in the middle with plastic containers suspended on wooden supports. So this is where the wet screening takes place. Looks like it can only fit 2 people at a time. I wonder how often it'll be used. Augustin demonstrated by lowering an empty metal sieve into a plastic container. Grabbing a hose, he mimed washing the screen and rooting through pretend dirt. As much as I tried to pay attention, the language barrier tested my focus, and my eyes started to wander. So I stayed focused last time. Let's check out the posters. Posters depicted sedimentary layers, cave bears, and even proudly displayed pictures from previous excavations. They were definitely useful for references, if I could read French. Okay, hors de caverne must mean cave bear. At least I figured that one out. A shuffle brought me back to attention, and people were gathering buckets, tools, and knee pads. I followed and carried everything in my own bucket, including a sheet of paper encased in a plastic bag. The real entrance to the cave opened, leading to a narrow industrial catwalk suspended over the abyss. Once I walked through, the temperature dropped to a cool chill, and I zipped up my hoodie. Augustin directed students to various locations, while Sherry carefully slipped by and I followed. The cave opened up farther in with numerous stalactites and stalagmites everywhere. The catwalk railing disappeared where the ladders connected, or when it branched off into other segments of the cave. Sherry, where will I dig? Sherry leaned over the railing and pointed to one of the deeper parts. You'll be digging here. It's a 125,000-year-old layer. The very same one where they discovered the Neanderthal mandible. What? I'll be digging in such an important place already? Despite my nerves, I felt giddy inside. Sherry climbed down the ladder, and I trailed behind her. At the bottom of the ladder was another catwalk, positioned exactly in the middle. Now that my eyes adjusted to the dim light, I noticed there were strings and cords hung everywhere in a specific pattern, with notes nailed into the soil. Sherry brought me to the end of the catwalk where there was yet another ladder, but this time much shorter. You'll be digging on the right side here. Here was a rather cozy-looking pit, a perfectly dug-out square. 2 to 3 people could probably move around freely in the space. It was almost right under the main catwalk higher up, too. Now, carre. This is your carre, D32. Carre? D32? Carre means square. Everything is separated into a grid system. Starting from the entrance of the cave, the uppermost left to right, it goes A1, B1, and so forth. That makes sense. It explains all the lines dangling from the ceiling, too. They're for measuring. Correct! Shall we take a closer look? The photographs for this row should be done already. I'll be right back. You can go ahead and set your items down. She retreated while I placed the bucket next to the shorter ladder. I descended, then grabbed the tools before I hopped off the last step. The layer I would be working on was mostly dirt, with the odd large rocks sticking out here or there. It would be easy to dig. By the time Sherry returned, I already had my knee pads out and the piece of paper next to me. Here we are, a picture of your square. She handed it to me. I could tell it was printed off in the highest resolution possible, fully inked and glossy. What do we use this photograph for? First things first, we distinguish each layer and outline it on the photograph. Once Augustin or myself check it over, you can go ahead and start excavating. This picture is an irreplaceable reference, and you'll find yourself relying on it often. Please don't lose it or get it tarnished. Sadly, Augustin is short-staffed at the moment. I'll be helping the other students since most are new to this too. Is there anything you'd like to go over? Nope, we did this before. I'm good, Sherry. Wonderful! I'll give you some time to get familiar with your square. If you're struggling, remember you can adjust the heat lamps. Also, the photograph's contrasts have been altered to help distinguish the sedimentary layers easily. I'll be back shortly. I glanced down at the photograph before comparing it to the vertical wall in front of me. No matter how closely I looked, everything was brown, 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 and more brown. How am I supposed to tell the difference of this brown layer from that brown layer? Not deterred, I picked up a pencil and began marking the more distinct sediments. Eventually, it became less solid brown, and I could see reds and faint yellows within the soil. I was so focused that I barely registered that I was not alone anymore. Hey, Kyler. I gotta pay attention to this. A tall student stood by the square next to mine, already engaged in identifying the sediments. I say I need to pay attention because before we meet him, his identification changes. And I didn't notice the first time. I paid him no heed until I became stumped on whether I was looking at one layer or two. Quietly peering at his profile, he seemed rather familiar with the system. I guess it wouldn't hurt to ask him, or at least try to communicate. Can I get your opinion on something? Quiet student. Hello? Bonjour? Still no reaction. I reached out and gave him a gentle tap on the shoulder. Whoa! The touch jolted him so abruptly that I retracted my hand. He whirled around and glared at me. Annoyed student. Did I? I think. Alright, let's see if I can do this. I think it's quelqu'un. I'm trying to practice my French. Okay. Oui, avez-vous besoin de quelque chose? Sorry, I don't speak French. Non parler, non. Oh, anglais. French-speaking student. He placed his photograph on the top of his square. A loop student, they keep changing it. Did you need something? Yeah, actually. I'm trying to figure out the layers, and I can't tell if this is one. I gently traced the soil and then pretended to pinch the air to give an idea of width. Or two. It seems reddish at the top. He grabbed his trowel, giving the vibe of a serious and no-nonsense person. Once I shuffled out of the way, he examined the area I'd indicated. Archaeology student. Two. This stratum is more red, as you said, but gradually disappears around here. He etched a small line to mark the ending. I blinked as I recognized the differences and nodded gratefully. Thanks so much. I mean, I sort of figured, but I wasn't sure either. It's nice to get a second opinion. I gave him a cheerful smile, but he remained impassive. He even seemed baffled when I reached out to initiate a proper handshake. I'm Melissa. I'm the only foreign student here, if it wasn't obvious already with my language skills. Reluctantly, he switched the trowel to his left hand, and we gave a solid shake before letting go. There we go. Now it's all fixed. Kyler. And that was it. With nothing else to work with from his introduction, I decided to bring up his skills. I'm guessing you're aspiring to be an archaeologist? You appear to know what you're doing. He returned to his side of the square and knelt down, grabbing his photograph. Yes, this is my 4th time here, so I'm acquainted with the subject. And you, especially since you're not from around here. Well, I'll leave this for your route, sweetie. I'm still deciding. I'm not entirely certain yet. I sort of stumbled into anthropology, and I can't tell if I want to get into archaeology, forensics, or cultural anthropology. I took this field school because I had a feeling it'd be the deciding factor on whether I'll go physical or cultural. Oh, I see. It does explain why you didn't pay much attention earlier. Oh, that's new! Disinterest seeped through his voice, and I had the feeling any impression he had of me fell like a stone. Bye, Kyler. I'll love you next time. Well, I know I'll learn a lot from this field school anyway. I don't plan to waste this opportunity. He's not convinced, and I dropped the topic. Since we're excavating next to each other, that makes us square mates. Or would that be carré mates? Either way, I look forward to working alongside with you. He looked confused, but simply gave a mechanical nod. Yeah, sure. Even his last words felt artificial, and I lost him to his little world of microstratigraphy. I guess he values his concentration. I mentally reminded myself to bring my earbuds for next time. I had a feeling we wouldn't be making much small talk outside of excavations. I just realized that his hoodie is a constellation. Is that of the Little Dipper? Or the Big Dipper? Maybe? The rest of the day was pretty uneventful. It was mostly a long wait for my photograph to be approved by Sherry, and then I got hit by jet lag. Despite my worry, Sherry said she would not deduct marks if I napped until dinner, although she did scold me for forgetting my journal. Shoot. I scanned the tables and maneuvered to where Sherry sat. I scooted to a spot on the bench and silently started on my meal. After a few bites, I poked at the pasta dejectedly and sighed. Now I really wish Paige was here. And we promised to do so many things together, too. I glanced up hopefully at Sherry. I felt bad, but she was the only oasis in this unfamiliar place, and I clung to it. Not only that, aside from Kyler, none of the students greeted me or even tried to converse with me. I guess it was obvious that I didn't attend the same university. Will I fit in? The question was more to myself, but Sherry overheard. Worried? The students here can be reserved, but I'm sure there'll be a few brave ones who'd like to practice their English with you. They're probably too focused from the lectures and the tasks right now. True. I'm sure once we're all used to the routine here, I'll have more chances to mingle. I ate with gusto, feeling confident now. When I finished, Sherry glanced at my empty plate. Here, I'll take that for you. Try to get some rest. Her concern cheered me up, and I chided myself for feeling anxious when I had barely arrived. I retreated to my tent. As I settled down, contemplating about tomorrow, a musical tune disrupted the quiet night. It was quickly silenced, but I knew the catchy introduction theme to Ishtara anywhere. I grabbed my 3DP. No, I didn't leave my system on or anything. Was someone else playing? I might as well play some Ishtara. A little grinding will do me some good. I booted up the game, and the first notes of the theme song blared loudly. I had forgotten that my earbuds weren't hooked to the handheld. I slid the volume down, hoping it didn't startle anyone. The low spirits I felt earlier today melted away to the warm colors of the game. Socializing. We succeeded at socializing. Hooray! Chantel and Joan. I'm just gonna keep talking. Hey, we don't get stress if we succeed with that. Interesting. Dawn of the 3rd day. And I'm enjoying a pleasant jog early in the morning. Oh no, we're gonna meet DeAndre. Sad face. Since I don't know much about Corinne, I stuck to the familiar path between the train station and the museum. When I returned, I saw people mingling in the open canopy. That meant there was enough time to eat breakfast before the trek to the cave. I swung a leg over the bench and settled into my seat. After pouring myself some apple juice, I grabbed an orange and began peeling it.
Did you have a nice jog?
Startled by the unfamiliar accent, I glanced upward, greeted by a friendly face. I did. It was a short one, though, since I don't want to risk getting lost just yet. I don't know the area well enough.
The roads can be pretty windy, too, and windy. You think you're heading east and somehow end up going north.
Oh yeah, I noticed the streets aren't all clearly marked. The names are mostly on buildings. Speaking of names, I'm Melissa. Pleased to meet you. I extended an arm and he accepted my handshake.
DeAndre, enchanté.
Wait, you're from around here?
C'est ça.
It's just... Well, I picked this the first time. No, I picked this the first time. Let's see. I feel this is kind of rude, but I'm curious. It's just the people here haven't been welcoming me with open arms. And I know some of the students speak English, too. I met one yesterday, and he definitely wasn't the sociable type. Yeah, I'm like, very rude.
A little quick to judge, aren't you? It's only been a few days.
Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, it's not as if I've been trying that hard to mingle either.
People here tend to be shy in the beginning, but they warm up quickly. We were actually intimidated by your presence at first.
Huh? Me?
We all thought you were some high school prodigy or prodigy archaeologist, since you had obviously flown in from another country.
Eh? Me, a prodigy? Oh, no, I'm just a regular university student working on her anthropology major. And I don't look like a high schooler.
First year?
No, second year. Well, I guess technically third. You?
Fourth. I've sort of fallen behind on electives, so a summer one seemed the easiest.
We noticed a few students getting up and bringing their dishes to the outdoor wash area. DeAndre reached into his back pocket, then pulled out a phone. He glanced at the display.
Speaking of which, if we'd like to pass, we should start heading out soon.
Cave or lab?
Right now, I'm on dishwasher duty, but I'll be working in the lab afterwards. They're still getting around to approving people's photographs, including mine.
Again, thanks for talking to me. I appreciate it.
It's no problem. I know what it's like to be in a new country and away from your folks.
Once we finished breakfast, we stood up at the same time. We momentarily gazed at each other in surprise. He was much taller than I had expected, near Kyler's height. Now that I think about it, most, if not all, of the students here were easily a few inches taller than me, or more. DeAndre hammered a fist into his flat palm excitedly.
Oh, that was the other reason why we thought you were a high school student.
Hey, I'm only slightly below average height at home. DeAndre grinned in amusement. When we left the canopy, I spotted a middle-aged woman frantically asking students something in French. What's going on?
Helena, the receptionist here, is looking for volunteers, but it hasn't been easy. I offered to cook all week, but it's not a one-person job. I have a partner for today, but any past that...
Sherry did encourage me to participate. More like I would be marked on my helpfulness outside of archaeology, too. Oh, as much as I'd like to volunteer. Good luck with that. I know I should volunteer, but I don't want to do that so soon. My head is already swamped with learning how to excavate, and I haven't even dug an inch yet. I'm sure you'll find someone. Good luck with that.
Yeah, thanks, Mel.
He called us Mel already. We just met. I missed that. I'll see you later. Love you, DeAndre. I'm glad my photograph got approved. Now I can finally start digging. So where do I start? From the top? Right. You start at the top and work your way back 25 centimeters. Then you proceed downward until you finish the layer. Some people prefer digging back a few centimeters, then work their way down. Either way, as long as you're making progress. For now, we have to remove the couche de merde. Do I have that written down? I wrote down a whole bunch of pronunciation guide for French, thanks to TKSI. I don't know if I wrote that down, though. Couche de murder. Using her trowel, she etched a line near the top of the square. The dirt at the very top was hard and compact, with footprints all over it. All this is out of context now. People have trampled on it, and it's been exposed to the air for so long that it's better just to remove it all. Couche de merde? Wait, it sounds similar to mierda. Therefore... Exactly. It's the layer of crap, to phrase it mildly. Just dig back 25 centimeters and a few down. When it comes to this layer, it'll make working here much easier. You'll still need a document for this, but you don't have to worry about the details. At least this will give me a chance to sharpen my excavating skills. I discreetly glanced in Kyler's direction. He must have been super diligent, since he had already stripped his layer away. Hesitantly, I took the bigger trowel and started scraping, amazed by the resistance. I had to apply more force to make a dent. While you work on that, I have a quick question. Did you bring your journal? I didn't forget this time. Wonderful. Also, have you talked to Helena already? She's the Excuse me. She's the receptionist here and oversees the volunteers for cooking and cleaning duties. I could see where this was going. Uh-huh. As you recall, I expect you to volunteer, since it'll be for marks, too. Oh, I haven't volunteered yet. You better get on that. Helena did say that she's been having a hard time finding volunteers. Melissa, I'd like it if you could help out tomorrow. I hope it's not too abrupt. It's too soon. Sure, I can do that. No, it's not, honest. Great. I'll let Helena know. I thought maybe you didn't volunteer because of the language barrier. I can be the intermediary until you're confident enough to volunteer on your own. Thanks, Sherry. I'll let you finish your first task. I'll mostly be helping other students here. Give a holler if you have any inquiries. I have a question, though. If we're getting marked on our volunteering, as well as, like, the archaeology and stuff, why is the receptionist having such a hard time getting volunteers? Like, they don't have the language barrier that Melissa has, but nobody wants to volunteer, and yet they get marked on their helpfulness? That seems kind of strange. I personally want you to get used to digging in the cave first before you transfer to the lab. Next week, you can decide which one you'd like to focus on. Generally, students spend 1 week in the cave, 1 week in the lab, then alternate. However, I think flexibility is very important, so I'll let you plan your days. Sounds good. With the conversation finished, Sherry climbed the ladder, leaving me with a remote Kyler. Geez, he digs so fast. He does have experience, though, but I wonder if I can even rely on him. So much for the square mate thing. A sigh. Pulling the earbuds out of my pocket, I inserted them and turned on my music. Now let's tackle this, mucky layer. Here I go.
I failed.
Man, I didn't need to do internet nearly as much as I thought I would have to. Heavy, heavy, way too heavy. Why did I think it was a good idea to fill it to the top? Not only that, I had to climb 2 ladders. Gripping the bucket handle with both hands, I managed to trudge forward to the wet screening area. Luckily, one space was free. I set down the bucket, then placed a screen over the container suspended above the tub of water. I tried hoisting the bucket, only to find I was too short for the task. I kicked futilely at a cement block until I realized it was faster to grab it and drag it next to the tub. Stepping on the block, I unceremoniously dumped half the bucket's contents, trying not to overdo it. Once I had my labeled cup next to me, I grabbed a hose and drenched the compacted soil, using my free hand to break up the globs. While I sifted through the items, I glanced at the person across from me. He tentatively poked through the wet screen, unable to determine if any of the objects were rubbish or worth dropping into the cup. His arms obscured his hoodie design, although it seemed vaguely familiar to me. I watched him, and he happened to look up, meeting my eyes. Bonjour. Sorry, I can't speak French, so I'm not even sure if you can understand me. I didn't mean to blurt that out, but he averted his eyes briefly. For a moment, I thought he didn't understand English and didn't know how to respond. Hello. You speak English? Yes, I think I'm pretty fluent with it. Sweet, it's always nice to know I can talk to more people here. I'm not confident with my French at all, let alone Spanish. I chuckled while I waited for a reply. However, he meekly nodded, then glanced down at the wet screening. Total opposite of DeAndre. Guess he's not big on conversation. Music is great, but I've spent all morning beside super sociable Kyler. I need small talk, darn it. I can't remember what I asked last time. I guess I'll just ask this again, if that's what I asked before. First time here as well? Yes, I don't know much about archaeology, so this is all new to me. Same here. I'm still deciding if this is what I'd like to do. It's a lot to take in. My head is spinning from all the info dumped on me in the past few days. Hopefully all my worries will pass on whether I can do this or not, and I can enjoy the experience. Are you nervous too? A bit. For someone being thoughtful on how to answer, it was barely a complete sentence. I need another angle. What else could I say? I really want to do this, but I'll leave that. What are you taking in school? Since this is an elective, what courses are you taking in school right now? What degree are you going for? Me? Right now I'm only in my first year. I'm taking some general courses. I'm thinking of going into computers or art. Oh, you draw? He hunched his shoulders modestly while one hand combed through the rocks. Something like that. It's always been sort of a hobby of mine. I sensed a conclusive note in his tone, and he turned off the water hose before placing it back in its holder. Not wanting him to disappear without a proper introduction, I extended a hand. I'm Melissa. Pleased to make your acquaintance. Shoji. He accepted my hand, and I felt the grittiness and dampness from the wet screening. Sorry. I should have wiped my hand off first. Not one of the best handshakes. It's fine. He tipped over the screen, dumping out all of the rubble, which vanished into the water below. I'll, see you around. Yeah, later. Still could have gone a little better. Oh, I should finish up. I turned on the water hose again and continued my task. Water hose. The conversation ended on an anticlimactic note, but at least it didn't have that same awkward vibe as before. Meeting all the people. Once I had finished preparing the plates and cutlery, I returned to the kitchen. DeAndre stewed soup in a giant pot resting over a single burner stove. I had quickly learned that lunch always consisted of sandwich ingredients, along with a serving of soup. Finished setting up the tables.
Thanks, Mel. I'm so grateful that you volunteered and all.
It's no problem. Glad to be of help. He tapped the top of the pot with the stirring spoon to get the liquid off. Do you cook often? You seem rather skilled.
I don't know if stirring soup is considered a skill.
At least you seem to know what you're doing.
I've been cooking seriously since first year of university, perhaps. I mean, before I could do the basic prep or throw frozen meals into a microwave. Once I moved to New Zealand, I sort of picked up cooking while living in the dorms. Eating out is pretty expensive, and I needed to keep a strict diet.
Strict diet? I'm guessing you work out or participate in sports?
You ain't wrong. Training and weightlifting are part of my regimen. I'm a rugby player.
Oh, that's neat. What position do you usually play?
I'm a lock. I'm guessing you don't know much about union rugby.
Not really. Sorry. I know it's similar to football, American football, but without the padding.
Basically the locks provide the power and heights. Break through the fences, jump high in lineouts, and...
It sounds like every position?
I lost you again, didn't I?
At lineout. What's a lineout?
Well, let's start with lock. Anyway, locks have to get the ball at whatever cost.
He extended his arms, pretending to reach for me, and made a primitive grunt.
Rawr. Aggressive. Must get possession of ball. Well, not as aggressive as flankers. You never want to be tackled by those.
I decided not to ask what a flanker was either, and gently shifted the topic. Where did you learn how to play rugby?
Well, I grew up always playing it. Even joined a local rugby club, but moved to New Zealand to hone my skills even further.
Out of all the countries in the world, why New Zealand? How is that related to rugby?
I went there because one of the universities in Wellington offered a program that combined its rugby culture with education.
He grinned like a child reminiscing about their Christmas presents.
I got to enroll there for a few trimesters, along with free tickets to elite games, and a gym membership to where the top-notch rugby players trained. Not only that, I got to participate in their practice sessions. I learned lots down there. It was pretty sweet as. It was expensive though, and my visa expired. I guess it was inevitable though. And now I'm finishing up my degree in Liège.
What degree are you working on?
English.
It all sounds pretty heavy-duty. How do you balance both rugby and your English degree? You're not just focusing on your rugby career?
As much as I love rugby, too much can happen on the field. One traumatic or hard-hitting injury and your career is over. Even with the best physio, you may not play as well as you did before. I figured if something were to happen, I could always teach English as a foreign language to fellow...
The pot bubbled and DeAndre softly cursed. He grabbed the spoon and stirred again to prevent the ingredients from settling on the bottom.
Phew, nearly forgot about this. Guess time does fly when you're having a conversation. What's the time?
I checked my phone display. About time for the students to eat. I'll get the cold cuts and drinks out now.
Thanks, the soup looks about ready.
He turned off the burner, and we focused on organizing lunch. I glanced at DeAndre as he happily hollered to the students coming down the stairs from the forest trail. Sounds like he figured things out. Now I gotta focus on what I'd like to do. Indeed, Melissa. Get it together. No more stress. Let's just talk to people. Or not. That was a big fail. Oh no! Why are we failing? Failing at the internet? No! Why? What happened? Is it after a while you just can't socialize? There's like a limit of not socializing anymore? It's starting to sound rowdy over there. I could even hear the hollering and cheering over the video game music. A large silhouette appeared near my tent and I yanked out my earbuds.
Mel, are you around?
Over here, I'm in the yellow tent. He gave the tent's flap a knock, rattling the fabric. I zipped it open and poked my head out. Something up?
I thought you'd rather socialize than hole yourself up in your tent. Want to break some language barriers?
He held out a raspberry-flavored beer bottle and swayed it before me.
Although by the end we'll all be incoherent anyway.
Ah yes, drinking, a universal pastime. Should I join in? Well, we made party last time. That got us closer to DeAndre. But maybe... I feel like declining would be a Kyler thing, maybe. Although I think he was at the party. That was decline for now. Let's try party responsibly and see what happens. I'll join in. Are there any non-alcoholic drinks available? He's like,
Would?
DeAndre held the bottle close as he tried to recall.
There's orange juice and cola, I think.
If there's diet cola, that'd be great.
Diet? Got it. I'll meet you by the campfire.
I'll take it easy tonight. I'm sure it'll be fun. Let's not get drunk out of our minds. I wish I had a beer after all. I could use the extra courage. I glanced around the crowds and took a tiny sip of my drink. DeAndre had wandered off somewhere, being the social butterfly he was, and I felt like I lost my connecting link to everyone. Usually I socialized just fine, even in a room full of strangers, but the language barrier isolated me. Is this how a wallflower feels? I wondered if I should retire for the night. When I looked up, I noticed a girl standing by herself. Ah! We made Joan! Hooray! Excellent. She glanced around before fiddling with her nails. Was she waiting for someone or felt left out too? She's cute. It can't hurt to say hi, right? I approached her from the side, then stood a little ways from her. When we made eye contact, I gave a friendly wave and she smiled back. Hello. Je ne parle pas français. Et tu? Et tu? Isn't that Spanish? Et tu? Et toi? Ah. She grinned and pointed at herself, and the mistake dawned on me. Et toi. Oh, I messed up already. She sticks her tongue out at me. I combed my fingers through my hair, then shook my head dramatically. As embarrassing as it was easier to laugh it off, and the girl giggled. Je parle français, un peu. I speak French very little. I speak English well. I can see. After exchanging a laugh, I offered my hand, and she accepted warmly. I'm Melissa. Joan, you're from the America? Yes, I'm from the States. I hope you like Belgium. Very small country, not like States. I like it a lot. It's beautiful. I'm glad. Our chat was short, if slightly clumsy due to the language barrier, but Joan was patient and we enjoyed the interactions. She perked up when she heard someone calling for her, and she gave me a little nod before excusing herself. That wasn't so bad. I really need to work on my French, though. I should get some sleep. I made it to the tent area when I heard a loud smack, followed by gasps and roaring laughter. It was coming from the other side of the building, and I muffled a yawn. Was that when DeAndre, threw a football at Kyler's head or something like that? Sounds like they're having fun, but I don't want to be too tired to dig tomorrow. Good night.